Welcome to the studio at Africa's Green Economy Summit. Today we are joined by Tshepo Kgobe, who is the COO of the Gautrain Management Agency. Welcome, Tshepo.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Of course. So as I understand it, the Gautrain Management Agency aims to be a catalyst for sustainable development. In what ways is the agency currently facilitating sustainable development?
So you have to think of sustainable development in its holistic sense. And I speak more of sustainable urban mobility rather than anything else. When you think about sustainable urban mobility, it goes beyond the vehicles. So everybody, when they start talking about sustainable urban mobility, they think you gotta change your vehicles to electrical, you gotta change to hydrogen, you gotta change to all sort of. But I'm thinking of it in a holistic sense because you gotta think of what about your stations? How do you power your stations in the future? How do you change the manner in which your stations actually conserve energy by themselves? Can you build the stations to be, solar passive or energy passive as a whole? So you gotta think beyond just the vehicle. Now, the biggest challenge that we've had over the years has also been how far do you go with the vehicles? Do you only go with the road-based transport, or can you actually deal with the rail-bound transport also? So we've built a strategy that enables us to look at the entire value chain. But in addition to that, you gotta go to the level of shared value. And when we're talking shared value is how do I bring my commuters to be on board with what I want to do and what I want to achieve? And how wonderful would it be every day after you've used the Gautrain, I give you your, carbon footprint statement off your phone, off the app, saying to you, by using the Gautrain, you've saved so much of your carbon footprint. Mm-hmm. I mean, wouldn't that be wonderful? Mm-hmm. So in essence, it's a holistic strategy. But what we've done was you gotta start somewhere. So when we reconfigured our new buses, everybody hasn't even seen that we've changed our buses. None of our buses can be older than 10 years on the system. So when we changed the buses, I had to go with a bus that allowed me to go from current Euro 5 diesel bus. But could I have configured it in such a way that it allows me to later on remove the diesel engine out of it and put on a hybrid situation, a diesel that powers an electric motor, and then ultimately go to a fully electrical. But can I build it in such a way that it enables me to have a hydrogen bus in the near future? Mm-hmm. And we've done exactly that. So the bus is ready to be configured in whatever manner that we want to configure it in. And so you gotta start in some way. So, and we've already started, and then now we're looking at the next tier of vehicles. Micro mobility. We're looking at e-bikes. We were disrupted by COVID. We were ready to start a pilot out in Hatfield Station on e-bikes in the city. So we are ready and we're moving.
Mm. And so you touched a little bit about, on decarbonization. Yes. Of the Gautrain and its surrounding entities. So since the Gautrain already emits considerably lower emissions per passenger than private vehicles, are there any ongoing plans currently to decrease the carbon emissions even further in the future?
Yes, the advent of hydrogen trains is a game changer. I was recently in Europe and, looking at the technology in itself in earnest. And you got to understand two things have happened in the last 5 years. All the technology that has always been there has been made smaller. So miniaturization has occurred. Secondly, the technology has been modularized. So which means it's stackable. Mm. Now, if you think of it as that you can get an electric train today, a fully battery-operated electric train, as it is. But electric trains, their range normally is about 180 to 200 kilometers. And on my system, 180 to 200 kilometers will get you 2.5 trips up and down on the system. It might work on morning peak, and then I'll have to take the vehicle back to the station or to the depot for it to get charged. Now, in essence, bringing on a constant state fuel cell onto the train allows me to run the train for 1,000 kilometers. Mm. Now, 1,000 kilometers is a big change. And if you think about it, that I can run for 1,000 kilometers but the refueling only takes 15 minutes. Now, for every 15 minutes that I can refuel the vehicles and still run for 1,000 kilometers, I mean, 1,000 kilometers, that's an entire 5 days of worth of running. Now, that in itself has gotten us to think differently about, do we still want to keep the same technology? But with the miniaturization, it means you don't have to change the fleet completely. You can actually add a constant state fuel, a hydrogen fuel cell onto existing vehicles and still power them with the same type of technologies. Now, that's a big game changer. And in essence, we actually have gone into a full feasibility study on how do we get into this in full, including how do we change the stations themselves. Now, that bit where the technology is now modular means, everybody when they think about fuel cells or hydrogen fuel cells, they always think about them installed on vehicles. But we now have constant state stationary fuel cells. And those stationary fuel cells can actually be installed in stations, but we can go even further. Now, the conversation we're having earlier on in the morning is about how does Africa become a net producer of hydrogen overall? There's one thing that we have in abundance in the whole of this country is solar. And we have more hours a year of clear skies than anybody else. Now I have real estate, I have parkings by by the lot, and that allows me to be able to install solar panels in my stations. That then part of it will power the station, and part of it I can actually produce my own hydrogen in the station in itself. And then I can have these stationary fuel cells powering my stations overall. Why hydrogen, everybody always asks, is that the biggest challenge with solar is always the issue of storage. If you produce the power, remember, obviously, solar doesn't work in the evenings, but there are challenges that you have to consume the power as you are making it. And then storage is always the prohibitive part of going solar. But if you can convert the energy to hydrogen and then use it when you want it, and even in the evenings, then you're on a good wicket right there.
And we're seeing more that electric vehicles are starting to be adopted at an increasing rate in Africa. So how does the Gautrain Management Agency expect the Gautrain to complement this industry shift? I know you've touched a little bit on the use of green hydrogen in vehicles and the use of solar panels, but how do you expect the shift in electric vehicles to be complemented by the use of a train such as the Gautrain itself?
For us, we're looking at an individual looking at their own mobility, and that's a bit I was telling you about shared value. If an individual can drive their electric car to the station, while it's parked there, it can charge off the green energy we're producing on our solar panels, and then they use the Gautrain to get to their intermediate destination, and then use our green bus and our electric bus to then get to their final destination, then we can create zero emission mobility, where the individual, none of the areas as they're commuting actually has any emissions. So we don't go, okay, I'll take the first leg on non-sustainable modes, but I'll use the Gautrain. It's about shared value. Can we have a common cause? And more people, as they adopt more vehicles, one is I have to enable, our parking has to become more charging friendly. That's the first thing. So therefore, the person knows, well, I don't need to charge my car right now. As long as I have enough power to get to a Gautrain station, then I can charge it there. And to me is, how do you build transport into a lifestyle product, where somebody sees us as part of their entire green lifestyle rather than it being just a utility that they use to be able to get to the next mode of transport.
And so other than what you've already told us, are there any other plans in motion to benefit South Africans and South Africa's green economy soonest using the Gautrain?
So we are moving quite rapidly into testing our electric bus. We've had it for the last 2 years, and we've been disrupted by COVID in producing it en masse. And watch the space.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so
Madi.
much for coming and speaking to us about shared value and how that's actually going to help South Africa's economy. I think it's really important. And to our viewers who are watching, you can tell us what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. And you can hit like and subscribe to see more content like this. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.